Good morning, it's Brittany. I am from Group 1. This is week 8. And to start off with the individual questions about the letters of citizens, my topic that I'm going to talk about is violence in the military as far as battered military spouses, especially after soldiers are deployed and they come back. A lot of them suffer from a lot of trauma, PTSD, and they don't know how to interact with their families. So, actually, my whole degree career is base or goal is to somehow be the middle woman between the military and the victims or the families, helping the soldiers reassimilate to civilian life and work with their families, because a lot of programming seems to be on PTSD and help for the soldiers, and not so much for helping the domestic violence and helping the families. So that's where I'm going. All right, starting off with manipulation. These are pretty much the directors of the programming. So I think that in this case, because I am a military spouse, I'm going to use my post for example. It would be Army officials here at Fort Riley, therapists here who have specialized in PTSD, and also the city we live in is like Junction City, so I think that city officials will also be involved in the manipulation rung. Next is therapy. I think we've actually had actual group sessions for soldiers and domestic violence. My husband has told me that, they're like, don't do it. If you need to talk to someone, do it. Okay, that's it. So, that's really, their programming. They just make them watch long, drawn-out videos, and then the soldiers are dismissed. So, they already do that, and we've had days of, like a domestic violence day, where there are T-shirts printed and people put money in a bucket to go to a local shelter, and that's it. But I mean, a lot of people didn't read the pamphlets or the speakers when they were speaking. So basically, this area makes you think that something is being changed when it's really not. Next is the informing. This is when people are informed of an issue but don't really have any influence over it. I think that this happens way too often, especially when it comes to domestic violence. A lot of times, officials will talk about it, but they will, especially in the military, they will make it seem like it's not as severe as people may think in the military. And also, they also would like to not put blame on the soldier, because of course he's a soldier. Like, why would you ever want to put soldiers in a negative light? They also create programming, like I said before, to most likely help the soldier, but not necessarily the families. Consultation. There's always surveys, and a lot of times when people are in violent situations, they don't answer them honestly. They don't send back surveys. But another thing, like hospital records, and as far as abuse victims being admitted to the hospital and different types of bruising. Also, MP abuse calls. MP is military police, so they have record of, I'm sure, how many stops they've made to different homes, or how frequently they've made that. Okay, placation. These are basically model citizens for the military. Basically, they're indirectly involved, but they have kind of a leadership position in the community. I think this would be the FRG, which is Family Readiness Group leaders. There's programming for each unit, and basically it's to help out the families and the soldiers, basically readjusting to adjusting to military life and what happens during deployment. So I think that they would put an FRG leader in that position. Partnership, this is I think, where there needs to be an actual interaction between actual victims and actual abusers and actual officials communicating and talking about better ways to help change. But especially with domestic violence, it's such a touchy subject, and you wouldn't want to subject the victims to any more abuse. So next is the delegated power. I want to be the delegated power. I would love to be that one outspoken person who is basically, like, I just want to work in a collaborative manner to promote change. I'm not trying to shine a negative light on the military. My husband's a soldier. I'm friends with soldiers and their husbands, and but you know, it is a violent job. Like, this is a job where they teach violence, literally. Like, your job is about killing people. So you know, if it needs to be restructured, especially when soldiers have this mentality of attack when so I mean, you know, it's different when they're with their families, so that needs to be changed greatly. And citizen control. I think that making domestic violence, and especially how it's connected to PTSD and different traumas from deployments, not making it so secretive, and it needs to be guaranteed change across the board. Let's see. The last few questions that were asked were, how would people find out about this? PTSD and domestic violence and violence in the military in general, it's not a lack of awareness. It's just that so many people always turn a blind eye. So many people ignore it or label it as a family problem. And that's just how violence, especially in the family, has been handled from day one, like whether it's military or civilians. So I think that we need to stop sweeping it under the rug. How would citizens be encouraged to participate? It's hard for victims to speak up about their violence, and it would be incredibly hard for a soldier to admit that he's violent, because, you know, he will risk his career doing so. So that is really hard as far as like getting the actors involved in the situation. But I think that a lot of times in military situations, everyone lives so close, and if you witness abuse or you see it firsthand or you assume that it's happening, don't just sit and be quiet. Report it, or, you know, confront them in the right manner. There's a right and a wrong way to confront people, especially when it comes to violence. You might lose a friend, but speak up. Even if you're wrong, it's better to be wrong and say something than to be dead on and something happens. What power would they have to affect the issue? I think that citizens have the most power. Victims have the most power. You know, those who witness it have the most power, because domestic violence, it's not just, you know, oh, we need more dumpsters in our apartment complex. Like, these are life or death situations. So you can change someone's life, you can save someone's life just by participating, or at least, you know, understanding the signs to look for and people to contact and ways of dealing with it. Okay, for the individual group 1 question, according to Garcia, what is the relationship between social change, empowerment, and scientific inquiry? I really liked what she said on page, I believe it's 172. She says that understanding the constructive reality will require historical analysis to see how the phenomena of interest have varied. I'm sorry, I can't see. Varied across times and cultures. Reality will not depend on observation and experimentation, but will be based on social change as to construct, understand, and transform it. I think that that is the perfect way of describing it. I've never really looked at social change and empowerment as a scientific inquiry of how our world is and how it's structured and the things we do and how it changes over time. I've never looked at it from a scientific, change point. I just look at it as progression. But it's kind of awesome because it made me think of my feminist views and how I view, my independence and marriage. And my mom, like she didn't really get her independence until after she was divorced, and how her mom didn't work at all and was just a homemaker. So it's funny how, my grandmother was very homebody, typical, old school, like the wife stays at home, the husband makes all the money, pays all the bills. She doesn't work, she takes care of the kids. Whereas my mom, she for a long time she was that housewife. And then she developed her independence later on in life, and now like she encouraged me before she passed away to, really stick to my independence and my education and career and push that. And so I kind of want to have that balance of family and a career. So that's the kind of the way I looked at it. Like, I guess progressively things change. So I really like that. I really like that concept of how social change, empowerment, and scientific inquiry interacts. So I am so sorry about this video being so long. You guys know I for 25 minutes, so if I can cut out the ums, this video probably would have been about 4 minutes. So I'm going to cut it short. Love you guys. Have a good night, day. Bye.